Hello, happy Saturday. My name is Nioka Lynn. I hope everybody's doing well today. I hope everybody's warm. It's cold and I actually think it's snowing. Anyway, I'm good and warm. I'm wearing a big sweatshirt. It says, "Yes, I'm cold." And then it looks like a scripture. It says, "Me 24/7." A friend of mine has sent this to me, very different. And it feels like a big old hug. That's what it feels like. It's so warm and cozy. So I wanted to come on and share something. I woke up this morning and it was brought to my memory something that happened to me. I guess it was in around 2002 or 3. And I remember laying there in my bed thinking, oh my goodness, if I share this, people are going to think I'm off my rocker. But then I kind of laughed at myself and I thought, I could hear a friend of mine saying, so what? so, um, so I want to share a few things. First, I want to say that since I was a very young child, I've experienced, I guess what people call paranormal things. It was scary for me as a child. And I didn't understand. And because I was so fearful all the time, I think I attracted a lot of low, tricky, vibing energies. And I remember going through something really intense at one time, and I didn't want to sleep in my room. And I wanted to go sleep in my sister's room. And she said, "No, you're not coming in here. You're not bringing your friends in here with you." But anyway, that was a very long time ago. I was a teenager. But what came to my mind this morning was something that happened to me when I worked at a place called the Rag Shop. And let me just begin by saying I was working, and I'm a floral designer by trade, and I was standing at my counter putting together an arrangement, and I was facing the front of the store. I could see everything in the front, and it was convenient for me to stand at that part of my counter because I could see any customers searching for things, whatever. So our door had a cowbell kind of noise to it every time somebody opened the door. And it clanged. Now, I mean, it clanged a million times a day. I never really paid it any attention. But this particular day, I heard the clanging of the bell and I looked up. Now, anybody that lives in South Florida knows just how bright that afternoon sun is. And it was bright and it was shining in all the windows and the doors. So when I looked up, when the door opened and I heard the bell, I could see a tall figure standing in the doorway. Okay, so I looked and the gentleman just stood there for a few moments and then he walked in the store and I kept looking up and I just kept looking up and I don't know why I was watching this man, but I was watching him. He came in, he walked down the main aisle and then he turned into what I call my stem rack. Now a stem rack is just um, it was a few aisles of cups full of stem flowers. So I watched him walk through my stem rack and I kept looking. And the closer he got, my heart just started to beat fast. I felt almost anxious and I couldn't understand what was going on. I'm thinking, what's my deal, So he came over to the side, my left side, where my little gate was to go in and out of my little enclosed area. And he stood there and he says, "Excuse me." So I looked and it was him and he said, "Can you help me, please?" This gentleman had to be about 6'3", 6'4", tall, slender. He had on like beige cargo shorts, topsiders. I don't believe he had socks on. He had a thin cotton plaid shirt on, white hair, and the bluest eyes I ever saw. And I looked at him and I said, "Oh, of course. What do you need?" And he said, "Do you sell clock parts here?" I said, "Oh, yes. Let me show you." So my heart's beating fast. I'm shaking a little bit, and I don't know why. And I go to the aisle where the clock parts were, and I turn into the aisle, and he never turned into the aisle. And when I said, "Here they are," up on the wall, here they are, I guess it was like 2 panels of clock parts. He never even looked at the clock parts. He stood there at the end of the aisle and he looked at me. And now, about this time, I'm shaking. I want to cry, don't know why. And he said, time is a precious thing. Now, while this man's talking to me, he's looking dead in my face, and I can't get my eyes off of his. He said, time is a precious thing. We should never take time for granted. We should never take anything for granted. And he paused and he just looked at me and he just had this stare in my eyes and he tilted his head. He turned around and he walked right outside the store. Now I'm in the aisle and I am boo-hoo crying. I'm shaking and I'm like, what in the world just happened to me? I started to boo-hoo cry. I ran to the back of the store where the ladies' room was, and I cried. I just cried. And I remember standing there thinking, oh God, am I taking time for granted? What am I taking for granted, God? And I was just shaking and shaking. I washed my face with cold water, and I was blown away. Well, needless to say, it stayed on my mind. I don't know who that was. I have my opinion about what that was. It was definitely a messenger. And anyway, so I want to say it was maybe not the next day, but the day after that. One of the guys that worked in the frame shop in the bag, he came in the morning. It was first thing in the morning. We had just opened. I'm already at my counter. And he came up to me and he had a paper bag, like a grocery shopping bag. And he plops it up on my counter. And he says to me, "Hi, good morning." He says, "I brought you something." I said, "You brought me something?" And he said, "Yeah." He goes, "I was cleaning my garage out this weekend and I put this aside for you and I brought it in for you to have." He said, "I don't know why, but I just thought of you when I found this." And I was like, "Oh, okay, thanks." So I open up the bag and I pull it out and it's a clock, a little mantle clock. And I had chills from head to toe and I thought, oh my goodness. And he goes, "You don't like it?" I said, "No, I love it. Thank you so much." Customers brought me little clocks, a watch. I used to be blessed often from my customers there with little gifts. And all of a sudden I started getting clocks and watches. And I'm like, okay, I'm taking time for granted. How am I taking time for granted? I don't understand. I don't understand. Then I had a dream about clocks. It's another day, another story. But anyway, I know that no matter where you're at on your journey, your guides, God, source, will get your attention. There's signs everywhere. And if you really, really are seeking and really looking for the signs, I guess you could say, or open to it. I guess that's a better way of saying it. If you're open to it, God will send you signs, little synchronicities. So I believe this gentleman, this messenger was sent to me to show me not to take time for granted or anything. So I've always held on to that. Now, learning that time, us humans, we see time. Well, time is linear. Time is a tool that we use here on Earth to navigate, I guess you could say. Um, I've learned that. And I've learned that there are a lot of tools that God sends us and a lot of signs. Now, I'm sure I speak for many when I say angel numbers. Oh my gosh, the numbers. So I've learned how to look those up: 1111, 4444, 5555, 919, all kind of numbers. God will get your attention where you're at, your spirit team. And yes, you've all got them. You all got here. You're never alone. And I loved knowing that. I loved knowing that I was never alone, that I always had guidance, and I was taught how to tap into that guidance. I remember hiding myself for a very long time for fear of being rejected, called crazy, schizophrenic. Oh, she sees things, she hears things. Oh my goodness, she's weird. But when I moved to Baton Rouge, I um, I met up with some folks out there. It was like I had been living in a foreign land forever, and nobody spoke my language. When I met these folks, it was like, oh my God, they're speaking my language. They made me feel at home. And I was ignorant in a lot of things, and I think I offended a few people unintentionally because I didn't know. But I learned that I was not alone. I learned that there was lots of folks like me that were gifted in different areas. And I know of a lot of folks who hide their gifts. I did for a very long time. I didn't want to be rejected. I didn't want to be called evil. I didn't want to be pushed away. And I think that was part of all that, not knowing my self-worth for a long time. I think that was all part of it as well. But um, I love my gifts. They empower me. They help me, and through me, they help others. And if you have these gifts, if you have different gifts, share them, bask in them, be grateful for them. I sat here this morning and I got so teary-eyed and grateful, and I just told God, thank you. I know throughout my life, it's like I was handed puzzle pieces, and I didn't quite understand the things that were happening to me at the time, but I think it was last year I sat here and I was like, that's what that meant. Oh, this is what that, I get it now. There's dreams that I had that were so significant. They were just so, oh my goodness, what an impact they had on me. You couldn't forget them, not even close. And when I thought they meant one thing at that time, they revisited my memory, and I thought, oh my gosh, I saw them in a different light. I saw scripture that way too. I definitely saw scripture that way. I was blessed to see scripture in I say greater light. I think that was mercy, especially after finding out how bad it was manipulated. But I know that God will reach you wherever you're at and lead you where you need to go. Do I know everything? Oh my gosh, I hope not. Because it's like a treasure hunt for me. The more I learn, the more I know I need to learn. And everything I learn, it empowers me at some degree. Oh my goodness, the obstacles that I've had to deal with in my life, had I not learned what I learned, I'd have never made it. Now it's like every obstacle that comes, and don't get me wrong, sometimes it's like, I'm shattered. What is this? And it's usually, I think, when I'm complacent. It's like when I get lazy or whatever, something will show up. But, those very things are there for you to grow, for you to look at. Yeah. So I'm grateful. Yeah, so everything that comes my way, it's like seeds, I guess, and I grow from them, and I'm grateful. So I hope you're grateful today. I'm grateful every day. I love my morning time with God and my spirit team. Oh, so let me share this real quick. When I met those wonderful people in Baton Rouge, I would hear them speak about their guides, their angels. I guess some people call them guardian angels. And they had names, and I was like, now I know that I have like 3 different personalities that talk to me. One was just so funny and comical, and usually would make me laugh at times where I needed it the most. Another was like a teacher, like, showing me different things about every situation. And then there was another one that was very matter of fact, just very matter of fact. I never thought to ask for names, so I asked this lady at one of the meetings. I said, "How do you know your guides' names?" I said, "I don't know my guides' names." She goes, "Well, have you ever asked?" I said, "No, I guess I haven't." So when I went home that day, I started asking. All right, I hear y'all. I guess I'm not crazy. And if I am, there's a whole bunch of other crazy people just like me. So, what are your names? You never told me your names. Well, that whole night was nothing. I got nothing. So the very next day I was off from work, and all day, well, I'll say half the day, I kept asking, "I sure would like to know your names. I know you're there. I sent you around me. I've seen different things around me. I'd like to know your names." Well, I got busy, and at the end of that day, I was preparing my things for the next day to go to work. Then I went to the bathroom and I drew me a bath. And as soon as I sat in the water, as soon as I sat in the water, I heard ever so clearly, "We are Seth." I was like, "Oh, we are Seth. We are one name. We are Seth." And I thought, okay, I could not wait to go back the next week to tell this lady that I heard about Seth. And she seemed to know Seth. I said, "You know Seth?" Because I told her, I said, "They said, we are Seth." I said, "They all go by one name." she said, "Oh, yeah, I know Seth." I said, "You know Seth. You know my guides." And she said, "Well, I know of Seth." And she began telling me about what she knew about Seth. So anyway, if you're experiencing these kind of things, you're not crazy. No, you're gifted. Tune in. Don't worry about what people think. Don't worry about what people think. I did for a very long time, and I think I wasted a lot of time. Who knows? Yeah. You can love God and be used of God and be gifted. You're not evil. Don't let anybody dim your light. Walk in your truth. Share your gifts. Tune your gifts up. Yeah. That's all I really have to say today. No song today. But my name is Nioka Lynn. Walk in your gifts. Namaste.